Mark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark, Alan Rough, Tam McManus and Charlie Adam here with us already to offer their opinion on tonight's Premiership games. Lots to talk about. We'll hear from Neil Lennon, we'll hear from Steven Gerrard, we'll also hear from Jack Ross, Brian Rice, Alec Dyer. It's all in the show. And of course, as ever with football at the heart, we will pay tribute to certain people who sadly have passed away. And one in particular is a man that Gabriel Antoniazzi, our reporter, is taking a look at now. The sad passing of Dr. Joe Venglos.
Former Celtic manager Dr. Josef Venglos has died at the age of 84. The Slovakian started out his career as a player before moving into management. He won the 1976 European Championship with Czechoslovakia as assistant before taking the reins 2 years later and leading them to a third-place finish at Euro 1980. He also made the quarter-finals of the 1990 World Cup in his second spell in charge. He then became the first manager from outside the UK and Ireland to take charge of an English top-flight club with Aston Villa in 1990, although his one-year spell was unsuccessful. Venglos managed Celtic for one season in 98, and although he didn't win any trophies, he's still fondly remembered by the fan base. He brought in stellar signings such as Lubomir Moravcik and Johan Mjalby, and inflicted a famous 500 defeat on Rangers. Rest in peace, Dr. Josef Venglos.
Yes, and I'm also certain that Celtic will pay their own tribute in the match tonight ahead of Celtic against Hamilton. So lots of football to talk about as well. Of course, Charlie, we were talking about it yesterday. Celtic, 11.5 million. It looks as if they're going to bank that if Leverkusen finally get the deal over the line, although there's been talk of maybe a late bid coming in from another European side.
Yeah, no, it's... If you look at it if you wanted to weigh up both sides, it's a fantastic piece of business. To get 11.5 million compared to what they paid, 300,000 from Man City. Obviously, Man City will probably get, I'm guessing, 20%, 25%, but it's still a fantastic return. And Celtic have weighed up in the right way and thought, no, we going forward, this is the best for the football club. And I don't think it's going to be a huge loss for him. I think, he's done well enough, but to go and get a move for 11.5 million, fair play. And we keep talking about Peter Lawwell. He's very good at business, and he's got his money.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't consider some of the fans actually are buying into it, Tam, because some of them were out erecting yet another banner. There's never a week goes by without a banner or indeed some kind of statement across the whole of Scottish football. Our review is complete, mismanaged at every level. So clearly there are some fans who continue to be displeased at what's going on at Celtic.
Yeah, as you said, another week, another banner. The supporters have made their feelings known from the very start. That they're not happy. But I don't think that Peter Lawwell and Dermot Desmond are going to budge. I think the more they place these banners and the more they shout to sack them, the more stubborn they will become. I think at the start, if they didn't, crowd around Celtic Park and there was a bit of aggro there and putting banners up, then they might have seen a change of manager. But I just think it's went the other way, Peter. I think they've went, we're not going to cow to the fans. We're going to do what we want to do, and we're not going to be seen to be, bending the knee to supporters. So I think that the money for Frimpong is great business, but I also think he's a really promising young player. I think he's only 20 years old. I think he's had a poor season, but I think before that, the previous season he was excellent. He was superb, and these clubs are not buying him, for 11 million if they don't see something in him that he can improve. And I think he's got a lot of improvement in him as a young boy. He's got a lot of potential. So I think it might work out a good deal for both, Peter.
Yeah, well, some of the fans are not happy, but Neil Lennon, speaking yesterday, clearly doesn't agree with their sentiment.
We've won 9 league titles in a row and 4 consecutive trebles, which no other club's ever done. So I don't understand why because we're having a difficult season, there's this sort of hysteria to change the board, change the club from top to bottom.
Well, that was Neil Lennon's view on it. He is still holding the rudder Roughie, the rudder Roughie, and basically, looking at players. I mean, Ben Davis is someone that he's contemplating on a pre-contract. So clearly, he's still in discussions with the chief executive and looking at players that he wants to bring in.
Yeah, and by all accounts, they tried to get him in the last window. They didn't let him go, obviously. But no, he's doing out on loan to a few players I've been reading, and obviously a couple of championship clubs are looking at him as well, Bournemouth. And but again, they must see something in him. But I mean, it just shows you the level that Rangers and Celtic are at now. They're getting into that division and picking players. They definitely aren't of the quality that they used to bring up. I know the pandemic's obviously, financially. I was looking at most of the moves in this month, and most of the stuff's been in loan. There's not much money flying about there, so maybe that's the way ahead. But certainly the way Celtic have been at the back, I think any addition, if he's any good at all, it'll be an asset.
Yeah, as far as Hamilton
Yeah.
concerned, well, yeah.
Sorry, can I jump in and just add to that? Listen, this would be a good signing for Celtic. I would say he's one of the best centre backs in the Championship. Left sider, quick, good size. I remember seeing him at on loan at Fleetwood a few years ago. I think Uwe Rosler was the manager, and he played a few games there, 20 odd games, and then went back to Preston. And Preston were going to get rid of him. And Alec Neil come in that summer, and Fleetwood had agreed a deal with Peter Ridsdale to take him back, and a permanent deal, and he wanted to go back to Fleetwood because he enjoyed it that much. And Alec Neil seen him within pre-season. He went, "You're going nowhere," and gave him a new contract. And he's played. I think he's played like over 100 games now for Preston. So for me, like playing against them, and that's a good signing by Celtic if they can get that over the line.
Yeah, interesting for Celtic fans to hear that insight from Charlie. As far as tonight's concerned, Celtic against Hamilton. Hamilton go into this one, no surprise, as the rank underdogs, but Celtic haven't won a game in 4, but Brian Rice is having none of it. He doesn't feel this is a great time to face Celtic.
We're going to Parkhead. We're playing against the strongest Celtic team possible. We're Hamilton Accies. Nobody gives us a chance. If Celtic were top of the league right now, what would people be saying? Hamilton's got absolutely no chance. Because Celtic are in the top league, well, it's a good time to get Celtic. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. We're going there. We know how difficult it's going to be. We're going as massive underdogs, and we're going to go and see where it takes us.
Doesn't miss these words, does he, Tom?
No, but he's bang on, Peter. I mean, you look at the budgets and the size of the club. There's no good time for Hamilton Accies to get Celtic. Let's be honest, they go there, as Chipper says, huge underdogs. I think they're 25 to 1 to bookies to win the game. And, they don't win very often, at Parkhead. So, if Hamilton go there and get anything out of the game, it's a huge result. But, I would expect Celtic to win the game comfortably, but it's not, he's right, it's not a good time for Hamilton to get Celtic. There isn't a good time for Hamilton to get Celtic.
Yep. Okay. We've offered our predictions on this. Anybody going for a Hamilton win or a draw? Okay, that kind of sums it all up. Well, I thought I'd save a bit of time rather than everybody rambling on. Easter Road. This will be good, Charlie, because I don't know if you've been able to hear it, but because social media and, of course, satellites that are up above the earth are picking up lots of groans coming from Easter Road, and it's basically the transmission of Tam after a game at the moment because he's just in agony working for Hibs TV because it's not been good viewing, Charlie, and even you're upsetting the Hibs manager.
Yeah, no, I think I've had a bit of a. I think I've got inside it a little bit, but no. Listen, I think when you're at a club like Hibs and you've invested what you've invested, and you've been to 2 semi-finals and not performed to the level that they're capable of, then you're going to get a bit of criticism. And it's no criticism. I like Jack Ross. I think he's a great guy. I hear a lot of good things about him and John Potter and the staff there. Hibs is a great club. It's one of the best, stadiums to go to and play and enjoy it. So it's not criticism. It's just an opinion that. When you fall below the expectation, then it's going to be difficult for you. But tonight's game is a big one, and we talked about off the show before with Tam. I think Hibs will come at the blocks and they'll be throwing everything at Rangers tonight, and it's to see how Rangers can defend if they can get, a lot of long balls maybe and make it a physical match.
Yeah, it's interesting you saying that. I mean, last season you would have looked and you would have said, in my mind, Tam, you would have looked at that game and said, "Oh, well, this could be a tight one." But because Rangers are such a transformed side, even a draw is sneered upon. They just look like a confident machine.
Yeah, there's no many teams have taken points off of Rangers this season. So I think that obviously Hibs Rangers games, I've played in many of them myself for Hibs, and they're always tasty encounters. You always go out there and you want to impress, you want to win the game. And I agree with Charlie. I think that Hibs will be hurting badly from that result at the weekend. They didn't turn up. They've took criticism, for not being physical enough, not putting the effort in the second half. And I think you'll see a big reaction. Now, whether that's enough to get a result, I don't know. But as Charlie said, I think Hibs will make it a physical game. I think Christian Doyle will come back into the team. I think Hibs will go 4-4-2 and they'll go longer. I think the only thing in Hibs' favour tonight is the park. The pitch is terrible. They're not going to play a lot of football. Rangers like to get it on the deck and play through the thirds. They won't be able to do that tonight on that pitch. So Hibs will try and make it an arm wrestle and try and physically be stronger than Rangers. So it's up to Rangers to stand up to that. But I think it'll be a really, really tasty game. I think there'll be a lot of tackles flying in there, and it'll be a good game.
Yeah, have you got money on spread betting on a red card, Tam?
Yeah, I think there might be a red card tonight. I think there you go. That's your bet. Maybe $5 on that, a red card. Yeah. I don't know who for, but somebody.
Okay.
maybe me, the commentary box if you get beat again.
Absolutely. Just referee going up there and red carding you for sobbing uncontrollably. But as far as the previous encounters, even Steven Gerrard thinks that Rangers have deserved more.
It's always a tough challenge and probably one of the toughest away fixtures you can get in the schedule. They're a good team, got good players and a good manager, which you mentioned at the weekend. I think our performances have been really good at Easter Road, and maybe we haven't got the results we've deserved. We've had a couple of draws there where we've had over double figures in terms of chances to win them games. So we've actually been a little bit frustrated and disappointed in the outcome of them games. The last game we played, the 2-2 game, we had a couple of individual mistakes and conceded 2 sloppy goals, but I think our performance and the chances we had again on the day, we should have won the game.
Charlie, can you see Rangers going undefeated all the way to the end of the season, and possibly people are talking about maybe eclipsing Celtic's season where they got 106 points?
No, I don't think they'll go the whole season undefeated. I just think that we're going to have an off day at some point. Listen, they've been amazing so far this year. The levels that they've set have been incredible. But to go the full season, I don't think Rangers have been playing that great since the new year. But they've been getting results. So that's the difference from last year. So I would, to go undefeated the whole season, I think will be very difficult. But in this Rangers team, you just don't know what's happening with them. They just keep getting results, even going behind against Motherwell, scoring late to get the draw, and you don't know. But it is going to be very difficult to do that.
Yeah, Roughie, what do you make of Hibs? There's a strange, I don't want to use the word collapse, but there's a strange bit of form that they're going through at the moment. I'm delighted to say Stevie Mallin's not going. I think I can't believe there was even a thought of going to Turkish football. I think he's better than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think the fans will be disappointed, basically, with the players that he's brought in. I think they've got a fantastic squad. I think the players that he's added, Cadden, Murphy, they've all been super additions. It's as strong a Hibs pool as I've seen. I said that the other night there. I just think they're vulnerable at the back on occasions. I think Hanlon and Porteous don't complement each other. I think it's been noticeable in a lot of games, that they have been very vulnerable and lost silly goals. But there have been games when they've been really, really good, and that's what's going to happen tonight. They'll have to produce something, because if they give away the goals they gave at the weekend, I'm sure Rangers will win this one. But I've just got a funny feeling, when Charlie touched on it there, Rangers haven't been that impressive away from home in the last couple of games. Struggled a wee bit Aberdeen against 10 men, one each against Motherwell. At home, I think they will go the whole season and not lose a game. But away from home, I think other teams will be going, like Hibs, should be saying, we've got a chance of getting something here. I don't mean a win, but I think a point, and I'm going to go for a point tonight.
Yeah, okay. Just based on a feeling in your water, Roughie, is that where we're going with this?
in his gym.
I think Hibs have got something to prove after the weekend. And I was listening to our new columnist this morning in the papers. Yes. And I immediately looked up his contract. Have we got a 20% sale on all these people that we bring on this show and they go to other things?
Well, listen, what happens is we develop them, turn them into half-decent broadcasters, give them a bollocking if they can't come up with an opinion after 20 seconds, and then eventually they move on to the big bucks of the BBC and Sky and the newspapers. It's as simple as that. And of course, sometimes they kiss the badge and tell us they're never leaving. But that's another story for another day. Anyway, it's only a matter of time before the number 9 kisses the badge and bails out the door. But just remember who ditched you first time around, and we were there for you, McManus. It's as simple as that, son. And the good news is, for everybody who's wondering when Tam eventually is going to leave PLZ, remember that the minute he goes out the door, Mrs. McManus, the power behind the button, will be in there as the new pundit, because clearly she's the one with the trousers in that family, to be perfectly honest with you. And she knows more about technology. As far as Hibs are concerned against Rangers, Jack Ross has been speaking. He's well impressed with what Rangers have been doing this season.
Well, I think that what Rangers have is a consistency in how they play and their style and their setup. And I think when they're winning most weeks, they can be justified in doing that. So I think we have been quite consistent in our preparations for playing against them in both games, and that has been aimed at being respectful of the threat they pose, but equally trying to be as creative as we can. And I think in both games we have created opportunities.
Yeah, I'm going 2-1 Rangers. Tam?
Oh, my heart's saying I think Hibs can get a point, but my head, and there's points at stake here in the predictor, I think they might just turn up short, so I think Rangers might nick it 2-1.
Yeah.
I'll be delighted to be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rangers will 2-1 for me as well.
Yep. And of course, the other thing about it, Charlie, which I think is happening for Rangers fans, is the fact that they're looking at the team as it is at the moment, and then the manager's just hinting that, you know, he wants to get deals done, he wants to get new players in as well, which will be filling them full of confidence that the continual graph at the moment seems to be, you know, going in the right direction.
Yeah, Peter, that's what you do at clubs. You're looking to beyond this window. Obviously, they want to probably get the Scott Wright one over the line, and these two lads from Bournemouth, Jack Simpson and Forbo, the midfielder. So they'll be looking to try and get them done in the window, the summer window. So listen, they're three young players. Progressive, and if you look at people like Kent, who's come in and done really well, these lads will be thinking we're going to a big club and get an opportunity to play and progress, and like you say, sell on maybe in a couple of years' time with huge sale on with huge asset really.
Yeah, I must compliment Gerard Connolly on our Facebook. He's just messaged us. Could win the message of the day. He says, and Mrs. McManus knows more about football as well. So there you are. People just steaming in there, Tam. Listen, good to see you writing a column as well. Of course, spreading his wings. That's what's good about it all. They're all across everything, Roughie.
Peter. You know these two lads from Bournemouth, it's an interesting one. That it's a centre back and a centre midfielder that they're trying to bring in, isn't it? You know, does that sound like there's a bit of doubt about certain players at centre back? Because then that will leave on that left side Katic, Balogun, his contract is up. You know, bringing the young lad in, Jack Simpson, who is young, Hollander as well. So it's an interesting one. But sorry.
It doesn't leave me in any doubt, because I mentioned it a couple of years ago on this programme, which is basically he's had a budget, he can buy that type of player. Now this is a guy who's played at the absolute top level, so he knows the standard of players, and he clearly knows a player along with his backroom team, Ross Wilson, and the recruitment process. So what he's done each year with that budget, he's said, right, that player will get me to this point. Now I'm going to try and get a higher calibre of player, and he moves on and he moves on again. So I think what he's doing is he's saying, okay, I think Steven Gerrard thinks he's ahead of it where he wants in his graph. So he's now going to win the league. So he's thinking, okay, how do I retain it? Because winning it, great, take all the plaudits. How do you retain it? And how do you continue to keep that positivity in the results in Europe as well? And I think there's no doubt in my mind he's looking and saying, if it's a central midfielder, I need them with energy. I need them younger. Steve Davis is not getting any younger. And he'll look at the centre halves and say, right, how do I take it on to another level again? So for me, there's no doubt in my mind Steven Gerrard is looking and saying, I've had that calibre of player. I know where their ceiling is. Here's the next level.
Yeah,
do you
and
agree with that, Charlie?
Yeah, no, I spoke to somebody at Bournemouth before, obviously, when you were talking about that, who does a bit of work for them, and they were talking about the two players, the big centre-backs, Cam and the boys, left-sider, he's not really got much experience for the age of him. He's 24, he's only played 35 games, but they really like the midfielder, box-to-box, energetic, and he can also play in a back three, in the middle of a back three, so you might be looking at that for next season as well. So, listen, Rangers are doing the business well and looking to see the future, so I think they'll be looking on, can they get the League One, and like you say, building on for the future and trying to retake the title.
Charlie, on that one. Listen, here's another point that I think we're going to move on to. I think everybody's got Rangers to win maybe a point somewhere from Roughie, but you can give us your thoughts on Hibs Rangers tonight. One thing that I think is, I don't know if you got the chance to see it, but David Martindale released a statement off the back of him being deemed a fit and proper person to manage Livingston, accepted by the SFA. It was certainly, I think, the right decision. I don't know if you agree with it yourself, but David Martindale released a letter just thanking the people, Roughie, that had put themselves forward to say that he deserves another chance. Anything from an MP to people in society, professional people as well. And of course, I think he was very grateful of everyone and their good wishes towards him in his plight to be deemed a fit and proper person. It was a lovely letter and a lovely statement, and I think just an example of how far David Martindale has come as a person and how he appreciates where he is now.
Yeah, and it's good that he's come out and said, look, he hopes he's a role model for other people who have been given a second chance and to reform and the proper procedures to reform. I think he's done everything in his power, to get back on the right road. And it's good that all these people, have seen what he's done, and hopefully the way that he's handled himself can help other people in possibly the same situation. Because we keep hearing about these people want to put something back in to where they've been to sort of, and I hear he's maybe going to a couple of prisons to talk about to people as well, and they're all good things, they're all positive, but I think it's a big weight off him. I'm sure he'll be able to sleep at night now. It must have been a worry every day. Somebody's talking about it, and I'll be glad that it's all over now.
Yeah, I'm full marks to him, Tam. I'm not sure I'd want to go back to the prisons for a wee chat. You know, just glad to get away from there in the first place.
I was going to say that. If you've done a bit of bird, you don't want to go back in there, do you? You know what I mean? So listen. I think he's obviously. I think the right decision was made. I think it's common sense. He's done his time, and deserves another chance to get back into society and to work. And he's obviously looked into his background. He's clear of everything that he was doing. So fair play to him. I think he can get on with his job now.
Yeah, tremendous inspiration, and maybe other people will look at that and think they can go through a career in any business, any job opportunity, and maybe get a second chance. Full marks to the SFA for doing that, and full marks to David Martindale for going back to the prison to chat to people and offer them a pathway out and to mend their ways. I know Roughie was keen when he was working for Hugh Hefner to go back and do a number of speeches to the people that he was working with. Anyway, apart from anything else, as far as Livingston are concerned, they're on a great run. I just can't see Kilmarnock stopping them. I've got Livy to win this by 2-0, Tam.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think Livingston might be a bit, physically exhausted and mentally exhausted from a massive game at the weekend, but they've got a strong squad. They proved that against Celtic when they brought a lot of boys in. So I think that David Martindale will shuffle the pack again. He'll maybe bring a couple in, freshen it up. But I think Cowan, I've said that before, I think they're in a bit of free fall just now. Obviously, they've signed George Oakley, which I think is needed. They need a striker. So it depends how fit he is. He's not played for a while, but I think Livingston will win 2-1.
Charlie?
I always seem to back against Livingston, so I think Livingston will win this. I'll go 2-0.
Yeah, Roughie, are you in the David Martindale camp to keep it going?
I don't want to confuse things because at this moment in time I can't remember whether I went for a draw or a Livy win. I didn't go for a Kilmarnock win. So whatever I text you is what I'm predicting.
Right.
You know,
okay,
just write
then
them down
that's
off your phone. That's what I've done.
Well, I was just about to say that's
Honestly,
fantastic.
Roughie.
Fantastic for the viewers who are not involved in Roughie's WhatsApp group.
It's a busy time for a minute. There's so much that he's doing during the day and that to know right it
I
down.
know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I've got a mole out in my garden I've been chasing all day. So I'm not hanging about.
Yeah, okay. Is that what you call her? Anyway, apart from anything else, let's hear from Alec Dyer, who's well chuffed. I think he's well impressed with David Martindale, but he reckons maybe tonight Kelly could end this run.
Outstanding. They've worked hard. They've made their own luck, but they're all buying into what he's trying to do. And yeah, but it has to come to an end sooner or later, and I hope it's Wednesday.
Yeah, okay. We've given our thoughts on that.
I need to see him blowing a gasket. I need to see him take the hinge off a dressing room door. He can't be like that all the time.
I'm sure he does, Roughie. Yeah, he does have that kind of a real laid-back feel about him, but he's a smashing guy. And listen, all managers eventually lose the heat, as they say. St Johnstone Aberdeen's an early kick-off, 6 o'clock, so not too far away from kick-off in that one. Saints against the Dons. Dons fans putting banners up right, left and centre as well. They're not happy with the Scott Wright transfer. Some of them have voiced their displeasure at Derek McInnes. So there's a wee bit of pressure on, I think, the Dons to get down to McDermott Park and win tonight, Tam.
Yeah, I think there is. I think obviously the result of the weekend, beating Motherwell, has maybe calmed a wee bit of the hysteria up there. I think Derek McInnes is sitting in third place, which is where Aberdeen are going to finish, the best they can finish every season for me. So I don't see the big hurrah up there about league position and performances. So I think they'll go down to St Johnstone tonight, and I think they'll get a result. Again, St Johnstone, mentally and physically, they had a really tough game, at Hampden at the weekend, and I think that Aberdeen will be a bit fresher and they'll go down there and they'll win 2-1.
Yeah. No surprise, Tam, that Dave Cormack up at Aberdeen is again stressing the real pain that clubs are going through financially, which is probably why Derek McInnes has said the only way Scott Wright is moving in this window is if Rangers give them money.
Yeah, definitely, Peter. I think it makes sense for everyone. It's no, it's different for the Brophy thing where the manager came out and they didn't want the player. McInnes is obviously wanting the player there, but I think in terms of supporters and Scott Wright himself, it makes sense for him to get money in and try and get him to Rangers just now. I still think that deal will happen. I think that the Rangers will come up with some sort of deal, whether it's cash in hand now or maybe something to do with the McCrory deal. I know Aberdeen a liable Rangers money at the end of the season, so I think that will happen. I think they'll be working away on that, but I would definitely expect Scott Wright to be a Rangers player this window.
Yeah, I've got this one down as a draw, Charlie.
Yeah, I think it's like you say, it's just how St Johnstone come out of this game. Let's say physically and mentally, I think it'll be a tough game for them. I would like to say that Livingston always go against St Johnstone for some reason, but I think they can get something. I'll go for 1-1.
Yeah, Roughie?
Yeah, I'm a wee bit like the guys. I think physically and mentally might have taken its toll. Aberdeen are a better side than St Mirren, so I'm going to go Aberdeen to win 1-0.
Yeah, Aileen Feeks reckons it's going to be St Johnstone 2-1. Who are we to argue with you, Aileen? It's all about opinions on this. Guesswork at times when it comes to the predictor. And as you can tell by the score, sometimes if you go on an 8-year run, it's all about just knowledge. So we'll wait to see what happens at the end of the 9th year. As far as the next game's concerned,
just when you said that, Tom, can I just put on record that I was leading one year with 2 months to go and the competition just seemed to disappear?
Yeah. Peter,
It just disappeared.
Alan Boys.
if Peter's behind you, we're putting like the Scottish Reserve Cup semi-finals in and all that to get points. It's an absolute
Tam,
joke.
honestly, it is a slanderous statement from Roughie on the basis that we all agreed in a WhatsApp group that votes would be taken before the end of the season that year. And I don't know what happened then. There was all sorts of arguments going on. Listen,
Never
Ross
even
County
waited.
against Motherwell.
Never even waited for my facts.
Yeah, absolutely. Ross County against Motherwell. Just before we talk about this game, if you get a chance and you want to hear a one-to-one, I caught up with the former Ross County manager, Stewart Kettlewell, earlier this week. Of course, he wants to get back into football. He's moving back to the Central Belt. And of course, Charlie, Tam and Roughie will be able to talk about this, and you yourself will be able to discuss the fact that sometimes when you lose a job, when you are under a bit of pressure and wondering if your friends are still by your side or people are actually thinking about you, that's when you really find out the people who care about you. And Stewart Kettlewell was talking about that, the people who have stayed in contact with him since he lost his job.
Sitting that Saturday night that I was sacked, actually received a phone call about 11 o'clock at night from Neil Lennon, who I'd got on great with. I had a lot of respect for him and everything that he's done and what he's had to deal with, especially recently, and how he's been able to do that. But that was the night before the cup final against Hearts, and for him to pick up the phone and spend a bit of time, his approach to how he came on the phone to me, almost to congratulate me for what I'd done. So not to sit in the kind of doom and gloom and feel sorry for myself, but pretty much just that well done for everything you've been able to achieve. That I was a young guy in management terms and all the rest of it, and just to assess the options, So it's just wee nuggets like that, and for me especially that one, and why I tell the story is, you've got a guy sitting the night before the potential of winning silverware that's seen it fit to pick up the phone and give me a bit of his time and a wee bit of advice and almost that sort of put an arm on your shoulder type of thing.
Yeah, lovely touch by Neil Lennon. Lots of managers do that sort of thing because they absolutely get the pressures that you're under. And of course, the other thing is, Charlie, you really do find out your true friends, the people who stick by you in adversity.
Absolutely. It's easy when you're at the top and everybody's enjoying it with you and that, but it's when you seem to go the other way and you're out of job or your career's coming to an end, you see the real people that are still standing beside you. I could put that to my situation is when I was playing at the top level and the amount of people I had around me until to now, the people that I've got, it's nowhere near the level it was around there. So you sort of, when you get involved in that and you're in, that whole thing, you sort of get blinded by that. But, that's the type of person Neil Lennon is. I've been able to meet him a few times on holiday and, loves talking about football. One of these coaches that, loves the game. So, fair play to him for that.
Yeah, and of course, that's the thing about it, Roughie. I mean, even when Charlie was unbearable as one of the top players in the Premier League in England, we stuck by him. I mean, I know you said, let's ditch him because, he's a big head, but then eventually we just said, no, we'll need him in the future. We will stick by him.
We've done it the opposite way.
The only reason it is because I bought them dinner. That's why I'm on that show. Just remembered it.
Absolutely. We thought to ourselves, if there's a staff night out, we can all get in the back of this SUV that he owns, Roughie. We know where our bread's buttered well and truly. And of course, the other thing about it, which was a disappointment, which is why Roughie wanted us to ditch him, is we went to Blackpool and he never took us on the big one, Roughie, which was the deciding factor in the whole thing.
Yeah, it was. He never even took us down to see the big one. Which is a bigger surprise for me.
I think we're back onto the mall, Roughie, to be honest with you. Let's not go there. Exactly. Ross County against Motherwell. Yogi was very complimentary towards Steven Gerrard because that's the type of guy he is, Tam. He's an absolute class act. I just wonder, the way he wants to play football, I wonder if he'll sacrifice that to scrap and battle and fight his way out of relegation trouble.
He won't, Peter. He won't sacrifice it. He'll keep playing the way he believes. Unfortunately, that was he's undoing at Raith Rovers. He went in there at Raith Rovers for a bottom of the Championship when he tried to play the perfect football, playing for the back, and whenever the players could do that and they get relegated, and he found himself out of job for a couple of years. But I don't think he'll stray from his principles and what he believes in, and I think he'll keep trying to do the right thing at Ross County. I don't think he'll ever go the other way and just go route one and try and dig out 0-0s and be horrible. So no, I don't think he will, Peter. And I think they'll get beat tonight. I think Motherwell will beat them 2-1.
Yeah, well, that would be a welcome result for Motherwell, Roughie, because 3 defeats, 2 draws in the last 5. I'll tell you, if Ross County win tonight, the alarm bells are going off at Fir Park, Roughie.
Yeah, but as I said against Aberdeen, I thought they should have had a penalty. They had a couple of chances. They could have squeezed the draw there, obviously get the draw against Rangers. So I think they'll go up there. And I don't know about the guys, but to come off a 5-0 hammering, it's always very, very difficult, particularly at the start of the next game, because you've always got that in the back of your mind. And if you score first, it just banishes it. But if you go behind, the first thing is, oh no, here we go again. I just think Ross County are vulnerable at the back. And I'm like Tam, I think Motherwell could just kickstart the rest of the season here with a 2-1 win.
Yeah, Charlie, I fancy a draw.
Just before I go away, what's happened to Rosh, Stewart? I've not heard anybody talking about him at all. I know they've tried to get the boy from Motherwell, the boy White, and I've got Ollie Shaw. I mean, it just seems to be everybody stopped talking about him.
Yeah, well, you either put up the money or you don't get him out of the club. It's as simple as that. Just out of curiosity, you just said there just before you go away, are you leaving now? Are we only getting 35 minutes of you?
No, I just meant before I go away from the subject.
All right, okay. Fantastic. Charlie, I've got a
It's usually 35 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. What have you got, Charlie?
I love how Yogi, goes about his work, and I think I'm going for Ross County to nick this 1-0. I think just like Yogi's, got them playing the way he can. I watched them against Hibs, actually, and I thought they were excellent. Listen, 5-0,
most teams have been good against us.
It's a free hit the other day against Rangers, as Yogi said, and I think these are the games if they can win that. But going up there is a tough game, and I think Ross County can nick this 1-0.
Yeah, okay. Dundee United against St Mirren. The Saints have to pick themselves up. I think Jim Goodwin, you could tell in his face how gutted he was in this one. And as far as Dundee United are concerned, Tam, yet again, the fans have been digging deep into their pockets to give them more money.
Yeah, listen, very, very worrying times. We've spoken about it so many times here on this show. They are losing money at an alarming rate. The loss they had last season was phenomenal. I think obviously this year with the pandemic, it must be even worse. So, fair play to the fans. The fans are always there for clubs. Your Dundees, your Dundee Uniteds, Hibs, Hearts. The fans always rally round in a time of crisis. And fair play to the United fans for putting together, I think it was 60 grand or 70 grand to put into a fund, to try and help pay the players or pay the staff. So, great. But I really worry about Dundee United.
Yeah. And of course, Charlie, it was a strange one. But Paul McMullen over to Dundee, you guys will be delighted to get him. I think he's a good player. I mean, are they basically trying to offload and cut the budget?
Well, obviously we had the pre-contract agreement, and I think the manager was adamant that he was trying to get him in this window if he could and get a deal done. And I think, the clubs, I don't know what the situation is at United with finances, obviously asking, but there must be a bit of a worry, and our club have stepped in and tried to make a deal happen. We've got it done, and he's our player. So he trained the other day for the first time and looked very sharp, and adds that different dimension to what we got up front. So we'll look forward to getting him in the door, and hopefully starting Saturday at Wraith, he'll can get us off to a winning way.
Yeah, Roughie, the alarm bells are still ringing for me with a number of clubs, especially in the lower leagues. Ian Maxwell doesn't seem to have moved any stage forward with the lower league clubs after consultation on when you can restart.
No, I think there is a committee formed from the first and second divisions who have met with Ian and they put their case forward, and they're just anxiously waiting to come back. But obviously with the government extending the lockdown, I think it's the middle of next month, it kicks it again, but I think all the first and second division teams want is a definitive of when the players can come back training and when they can start again, because it's their livelihoods as well. and they just don't want to be ignored. They don't want to be left behind. They just want a date. Just tell us a date. Is it the beginning of March? Is it the middle of March? Or whatever, because the longer it drags on, the longer they're not playing, you're going to fall into the last 2 months of the season playing Wednesday, Saturday. And I don't think these part-time clubs will be up for that. I really don't think that they'll be able to put their players through, working during the day and then playing in a midweek game and then playing on a Saturday and then another one. So the sooner a date gets fixed, and let's hope it's earlier rather than later.
Yeah, I think everybody's looking for some kind of plan or strategy out of all this, never mind in Scottish football. Now, a word, Tam, for a name that I don't know if you were too familiar with. It was Armand Nandoulé, who is the latest signing for Hearts. Comes on as a sub and scores 2 goals in a 4-0 win. Now, that's how to endear yourself to supporters, Tam.
Yeah, flying start. I think it's always important for any striker when they go to a new club, and I know that from previous experience, to go there and get off to a good start. You get the fans on side straight away, and he goes in his debut and scores 2 goals against Raith Rovers. Big result for Hearts. Obviously, they were smarting from that defeat against Raith Rovers at Tynecastle. So I kind of fancied them to bounce back and beat Raith last night, but to go and win 4-0 just gives them a wee bit of breathing space. Robbie Nielsen at the top of the league, and as we've all said, they will win the league by double figures, and it's up to the likes of Dundee and Dunfermline, maybe Raith, to try and get into that playoff spot behind them.
Charlie,
not Dundee, no.
What?
Not Dundee, no.
Not Dundee, Tam.
To get into that playoff place, no.
I say
No,
Dundee.
he
Dundee.
Did he?
Yeah.
I thought he just said Dunfermline and Raith Rovers.
No, he said Dundee. The Beatles have split up.
The toys at his ears.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. There's only Ringo and Paul left now, Roughie. As far as the one guy I was going to talk about, Charlie, was a guy that we know well, certainly from my early days of hanging about with him and your agent as well. In our younger days, Davy Moyes. He is doing magnificently well down there. Top 4 in the Premier League. And the amount of people, he couldn't get the West Ham job on a permanent basis the last time around. He's still to sign a contract this time around.
Yeah, no, listen, it's a great way to, I wouldn't say put it up to them, but it's a good way to say that the mistake they made before with Pellegrini coming in, they made a big error, and David went and done a few his other jobs and come back and was ready to go and got an opportunity, and he's grabbed it with both hands. They stayed up last year, and then he's rebuilt it this year, and the form that they're in at the moment is incredible. Another great win last night at Palace, and we'll see where it takes them, but they won't want to get too far ahead of themselves. They'll just be looking to finish as high as they can and then rebuilding for next season.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Roughie. You know what we're like, the Scottish people. Anybody down south that goes down, we always want to see them do well. But West Ham are good to watch, and okay, they've got Antonio who can score a goal or two. He was slightly frustrated last night, but they've got a real team spirit there.
Yeah, they certainly have, and it's great to see somebody, getting knocked for pillar to post. And is he going to be in a job next week? Are they going to stand by him? And they did stand by him. And he's proved them right to stand by him. He's got a work ethic there that is good, and the players you can see are all working for him. There seems to be a right good team effort, not many big stars like the other sides above him in the league. So, no, they're going about it the right way. And they're getting wee breaks here and there, but no, good luck to Davy. I think we've always been positive since the time we had him on the show when we interviewed him.
Yep, absolutely. And then everybody else just jumps on the bandwagon. Tam, as far as down south is concerned and the results last night, Leeds defeated Newcastle. I think, if there's ever a manager that you're looking at the odds now on facing the chop, Steve Bruce is right under pressure there.
Oh, big time. They are plummeting down the league. And, my English team is actually Newcastle. I've always liked Newcastle from the days. Yeah, that's my English team. I support Newcastle.
Is that the days from when you used to every weekend after a Saturday night? on the train.
I was the Christmas night suit, just over the edge to go to Newcastle fan. But no, I've always liked them from the Kevin Keegan days when I was growing up. Faustino Asprilla and Ginola. That was my era growing up, and I loved watching them. So I've always had a wee soft spot for them, but they are hopeless in it. They can't score a goal, and I think Steve Bruce is under pressure. I think Mike Ashley needs to get out of the club. You know, he needs to. You know, you're needing somebody in there who's going to really, really back Newcastle, because they're a massive club with massive support, but they're always running about the bottom of the division now, and they're not enjoyable to watch. So it's a hard time for the Geordies.
Yeah. Who was your childhood team, Roughie, in England?
Would probably be Man City. You know, probably
What?
Man
Was
City.
it?
Yeah, because I mean at the time with Summerby and all them and Bell and they're a fantastic
Lee.
side. You know, Franny Lee and all them, and they were just superb to watch.
Yeah.
Peter.
Charlie, mine was Liverpool. Was yours Liverpool?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, always been a great supporter of Liverpool. It's a huge club.
Peter, I like Newcastle because they're plucky losers, a bit like myself. They've never won anything.
We talk about Newcastle. The interesting one is Graham Jones has just gone there as another coach. So does that say that Steve Bruce isn't under pressure because he's bringing him in, or is that because something else is going to happen?
Well, listen,
Somebody else brought him in.
You get to a situation where, you know, assistants, coaches can come in one week and then the manager gets bulleted the next week and then everybody's out. So there's no rationale in football. There's no rationale at Newcastle as well. You only have to look at the evidence. The person who delivers a piece of silverware for Newcastle, whether we're all alive at the time, he will be a legend forever. He could walk into Newcastle with no money and he'd be able to stay in every house and go out and go to a bar without putting his hand in his pocket. Whoever that person is, he will be a legend, because that is the one team City and they are craving success. They're fanatical. It's a real shame. Actually, I'd love to see Newcastle. I thought Keegan was going to do it until Fergie had the mind games on him, but nevertheless, some tasty ones tonight. Chelsea against Wolves. Here's some of the fixtures in the English leagues to look forward to. Thomas Tuchel, Charlie, is in charge at Chelsea for the moment.
Yeah, for a moment, probably 18 months and then he'll be out. But listen, I think for Frank and Jody, I think it's a huge blow. It's, you know, like we said before, that when you go in as a new manager and you're sat there with owners and things like that, you know, you ask them the question, if it's going to be tough, are you going to be with me? And at Chelsea, when the tough going gets tough, you're at the door with a huge paycheck. It's obviously a tough one for them. But Tuchel is, you know, he done well at Dortmund. PSG, he was always going to expect to win the league, and he got them to the final of the Champions League last year, but we got beat. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, and he might be able to get the best of these German lads that they brought in the summer.
Yeah, I'm going to offer an apology to James Crawford. Did we give the scores for Dundee United St Mirren? I've gone Dundee United to win 2-1. Tam, did you give me your score?
No, I never. I've got Dundee United 1, St Mirren 1.
Charlie?
Go on then, Roughie.
I've got Dundee United 2-1.
And I'll go 1-1, same as Tam.
We've not given Celtic scores.
Yeah, James, sorry for that. I didn't mean to forget about Dundee United St Mirren in our predictions there. I've 3-1 Celtic. Tam?
3-0 for me.
Charlie?
3-0 for me.
I'll go 4-0.
He's just copying me now.
I know, he's just a ventriloquist. It doesn't matter whose name I call out. He just fires in there. He's brilliant. He's on form, actually. Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have more than a few managers talking about the scores tonight. Enjoy your football. Don't forget, you can get our podcast of the Stewart Kettlewell 1-to-1. If you want to watch it, you can do it on our YouTube channel. You can follow us, share the stream, and of course hit the subscribe button. We'd love for you to do that. Next month in February, we've got a fantastic competition. You can win yourself 3 prizes. It's the hat trick competition, a brilliant Diego Maradona canvas, an iPad, and an Xbox as well. So if we're not out of lockdown, suddenly you've got so many gadgets. It's going to be a fantastic prize, Tam, for everybody to get their mitts on.
Oh, that's some prize, that, by the way. You dipping into the budget.
Yep, we've
Did somebody
we've
sell you that for the back of Charlie's motor? That stuff.
Well, the figures are
The
coming
daggers.
in, and it's absolutely magnificent, the reaction we're getting. Although no surprise, Roughie, in the last couple of minutes, we've just had a call from the Newcastle Chronicle looking for a columnist because they want somebody who's been a Newcastle supporter all their life. So maybe there's some work there for someone on the panel.
Yeah, we'll see what PLZ jumper he's got on tomorrow night. It'll probably have that black and white one you've got on.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, if anybody's out there who knows who tanned Charlie's car and stole his blue one, that would be absolutely... if we could get that blue one back for Charlie, that would be absolutely sensational. The search goes on. Could it be...
Charlie, whereabouts was it in Glasgow?
Charlie's? Yeah, whereabouts was it, Charlie? It was just
in the West End. In the West End.
Honestly,
in the West End?
Yeah, incredible. Somebody's padding about.
Not safe anywhere then.
Somebody's padding about Byers Road, Tam, just looking as cool as ice now in one of the Maestro tops.
Well, Jack Colley next week.
No, this is too trendy. This is too trendy.
With his Crocs on.
Crocs on. Exactly. Listen, enjoy your football. Stick with us, share and follow, and of course subscribe as well. Thanks to Charlie, thanks to Roughie, Tam McManus, and from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.